In the 3rd century BC, the Roman Republic stood on the brink of collapse. The legendary Roman legions, which had once struck terror into their enemies, suffered one defeat after another. In this dark hour of despair, Roman statesmen made a series of fateful decisions that radically altered the course of Roman history and shaped the future of the ancient world. But how did an army, seemingly utterly defeated, manage not only to recover but also to transform into an indomitable war machine destined to dominate the global stage? How did military reforms manage to transform Rome, creating one of the most powerful and effective military forces in human history? At the beginning of the 3rd century BC, the Roman Republic faced the most severe crisis in its history. Roman legions suffered devastating defeats in several major battles, particularly during the bloody wars with the warlike Samnite tribes. These defeats exposed serious shortcomings in Rome's outdated military structure, revealing its vulnerability to new tactics and strategies. In this critical situation, Rome was compelled to conduct a comprehensive analysis of its military organization and devise a plan for fundamental army reform. But how did the Romans succeed in turning the tide and forging one of the most formidable military forces ever to exist? The key to their success lay in a profound reorganization of the Roman army's tactics and structure. It was at this point of profound crisis that Rome introduced one of the most revolutionary military reforms in its history, the famous manipular system. Abandoning the outdated Greek phalanx, the Romans adopted the triplex acies formation, triple battle line, which provided greater flexibility and maneuverability on the battlefield. This innovative system allowed Roman legions to quickly adapt to changing battle conditions, promptly reinforcing specific sections of the front when required. At the heart of this reform was the principle that an army's strength is determined not only by its striking power, but also by its ability to move swiftly and react effectively to any changes during combat. During the heyday of the Roman Empire, when the legion symbolized power and invincibility, the manipular system represented the pinnacle of military organization, enabling the Romans to dominate battlefields. One of the most revolutionary features of this system was the quincunx formation, or checkerboard pattern. This arrangement provided the legions not only with maneuverability during an advance, but also the option of a swift retreat, utilizing the gaps between units. Reserve units, positioned at the rear, were always ready to intervene in battle and bolster defenses, ensuring additional options during critical moments of combat. The Roman army was not a monolithic mass, but a diverse force where experience was combined with youth. On the front line fought the hostati, raw recruits destined to undergo their baptism of fire. Behind them were the principes, more seasoned warriors, ready to engage if the hostati's thrust proved insufficient. Finally, the last line comprised the triarii, battle-hardened veterans, who were meant to crush any enemy breaking through the first two lines of defense. This three-line system not only provided tactical flexibility, but also ensured that the most experienced soldiers were always ready to turn the tide of battle at a decisive moment. As the Roman Republic faced more formidable adversaries, the legion's military tactics underwent significant changes. The manipular system's maneuverability allowed for swift adjustments to strategies, introducing new battle formations and weaponry depending on the challenges encountered. Every battle, whether a triumphant victory or a crushing defeat, became a valuable lesson, which the Romans immediately used to refine their methods, striving to ensure their army always maintained superiority over its enemies. However, the power of the Roman army was not solely determined by its heavy infantry. Light troops, such as the velites, played a crucial role in the initial stages of battle. Armed with light javelins, they advanced rapidly to weaken enemy ranks even before the main infantry forces engaged. These agile and swift warriors were also responsible for neutralizing specific threats, such as war elephants or chariots. After completing their task, they quickly withdrew behind the lines, awaiting further instructions. Cavalry, in turn, also made a significant contribution, supporting the infantry and ensuring the Roman legion's dominance on the battlefield and against enemy flanks. However, the Romans' triumph was determined not only by tactical schemes and battle formations, but also by outstanding leadership and the unwavering spirit of their warriors. Figures like Fabius Maximus, whose attrition strategy during the Second Punic War became a benchmark, played a crucial role in maintaining army cohesion during periods of the deepest trials. The Romans understood perfectly that the morale of their soldiers could be the fine line distinguishing victory from defeat. A skilled commander not only led his troops into battle, but also instilled in them a belief in success, inspiring them to fight to the last, even when circumstances were against them. During military campaigns, the Romans recognized the necessity of modernizing their cavalry. Initially, Roman cavalry was less effective, especially when compared to Hannibal's Numidian horsemen. However, bowing to the demands of the time, the Romans began reforming and strengthening their cavalry, adopting tactical techniques and weaponry from those adversaries whose cavalry surpassed their own. As its borders expanded, the Roman state strengthened and broadened its network of alliances. Roman legions relied not only on their own forces but also on the support of allies, such as the Socii, who provided infantry and cavalry, sometimes in numbers equal to or even exceeding Roman troops. However, despite the importance of these allies, relations with Rome were not always harmonious, as evidenced by the continuous revolts of the Samnites and other tribes. Rome's military might was largely shaped not only by its citizens, but also by auxiliary troops recruited from conquered peoples. These allies, known as the Socii, formed a significant portion of the Roman army, contributing to the conquests and expansion of the Roman Empire's influence. Despite the invaluable role of allies in Rome's war machine, the relationship between Rome and its subjugated peoples was rarely straightforward. While offering protection and certain benefits, such as defense against external threats, Rome nevertheless fostered an atmosphere of underlying tension. The Samnites, in particular, repeatedly revolted, demonstrating the resentment of peoples under Roman rule. Even during periods of profound crisis, such as after the devastating defeat at the Battle of Cannae, most of the Allied population remained loyal to Rome. This loyalty, demonstrated despite all difficulties, proved a decisive factor in Rome's survival during the darkest times of its history. The triumph of the Roman army was due not only to advanced tactics and military reforms, but also to the rigorous discipline imposed upon its soldiers. From a young age, aspiring legionaries underwent harsh training, transforming them into impeccably functioning combat units. Military formations were honed to perfection, and every soldier had to master complex maneuvers completely. Training included not only combat skills, but also the construction of fortified camps, weapon maintenance, and the development of physical endurance. This iron discipline guaranteed that the Roman army would always be ready to repel any threat, wherever it arose. Being part of the Roman war machine involved not just participation in battles, but also daily self-sacrifice. Endless marches, the construction of fortified camps, and relentless maintenance of equipment formed the bedrock of their daily lives. Far from home, legionaries lived in Spartan conditions, content with little. Nevertheless, a spirit of camaraderie and a sense of duty bound the army together. Soldiers understood that their mission transcended personal interests, and this devotion to Rome and their comrades inspired them to fight even in the most arduous situations. Rome's military legacy did not cease with the fall of the empire. The innovations and tactics of the Roman legion served as a foundation for armies of future eras. From the Middle Ages to the present day, Roman formations and strategies influenced military structures worldwide. The organization and deployment of cavalry, flanking, maneuvers, and weaponry innovations were adopted by various cultures, confirming the enduring effectiveness of Roman methods. Thus, Rome not only expanded its dominion, but also left a profound imprint on the history of warfare. Rome's military transformations not only influenced the fate of the Republic, but also changed how future civilizations approached warfare. From initial defeats to the formation of an invincible army, Rome demonstrated that even in the darkest times, the ability to adapt and innovate can ensure survival. How would we have acted in their place? How would we have reacted to such despair? Rome left a legacy that endures to this day, reminding us that difficulties are not an end, but a stimulus for resurgence.